Hey everybody, we're back with another episode of the Caves Cast podcast. I'm Jeremy,
And I'm Ryan.
and today we are going to be reviewing Green Lantern #8.
Yes, sir.
He's got it physical. I don't have it physical, but I read it anyway, so let's just get right into it.
Yeah.
Um, we've kind of done this Blue Lantern like blow him up thing a few times, haven't we?
Yes. Making the
Like
Blue
this.
Lanterns hopeless, completely hopeless. Yeah.
This was in. I haven't read a lot of John's Green Lantern.
Oh, you
Um,
haven't?
no.
Oh, I have it all.
I
One
mean,
day.
I will. I plan on it, but I just never have. I mean, I read Blackest Night. I read bits and pieces of it, but like, just like everything else, prior to probably the last, I don't know, 5 years, all my comic reading has just been like a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this. Like, if it wasn't Thor or Flash, like I didn't really try. I wasn't as like invested at that time, you know.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Um, but yeah, like they did this in John's run, right, where it was Saint Walker was the last.
Yes.
So
Walker
where
was, but I mean, Blackest Night, everybody became everything. Like
Right,
everybody had a
right. Like,
ring of something,
yeah,
you
like
know. So
Barry became the Blue Lantern and all
yeah.
that. And, that's when Batman had the yellow ring, right?
Yeah, Batman went and he's had a couple, you know,
Yeah. Well, then they
because
all get the white at the end anyway. So,
yeah, because Batman has had the White Lantern ring. His clone has been a Black Lantern. He was a Black Lantern in Death Metal,
oh yeah, that's right. I
you
was,
know. And but yeah, he basically, since he mastered fear and projects fear onto people, yeah, the yellow ring went to
yeah,
him.
but yeah, it, and this is Razor we're following
Right.
from the animated series. So for like those that don't know, Adams did some writing on the GL animated show, and Razor was like an original character. I think he showed up in Young Justice also.
I'm not too sure. I I
I
don't
want to say that he did. I want to say that there's a couple episodes in Young Justice where like they do like half. He's like red and the blue, you know. But whatever. Um, this is kind of just like setting up where he's at and why he came to Hal on Earth.
right.
And he's like, "Hey man, like you gotta help us, you know." And then Hal's like, "I can't leave." He's like, "This ring won't let me leave."
Right.
He's like, "I'll show you." He's like, "But I can't leave." He's like, "Well, you just like basically like you just gotta like outwill the ring," and it doesn't work, you know, because Hal's tried like since the first issue, to leave, but he can't. So he just tries again, 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 and again, and then Carol shows up, and he kind of tells her like, "Hey, I'm trying to bounce. Like, I'm trying to figure out what's going on out there, like what's going on with Sinestro, like what's going on with the Spectrum,
Right.
like all of that."
Because in
And
earlier issues, it basically is implied that the emotional spectrum in general is just messed up. We don't
yeah,
really know why,
yeah,
but everything's messed up, and we have to deal with the United Planets, which was what was set up in Philip Kennedy Johnson's Action Comics run with the War World stuff.
yeah, yeah. Well, like too, and then and I think we were on based off of this intro when they destroy the blue central power battery. Um, I think we were kind of on the right track, you know.
Right.
I don't think either one of us were like, yeah, they're just gonna go around bombing the central batteries. But like I'm pretty sure like we were thinking like the how the lantern and we'll get into that, but like kind of how like wishy-washy the spectrum has become and
Mm,
how like it's just been like just insane because of people tampering. We thought it was just them tampering with the power batteries, I think, not
right.
necessarily like bombing them all out. But it's kind of interesting, man. Like it's cool to see Adams kind of and that's like a big undertaking because the central power batteries have been around since John's established them, you know.
Right.
But
But
like,
it kind of
all
makes
of
me
them as a
wonder.
whole. But
It kind of makes me wonder if they're going to do like the John Stewart thing, where everybody just kind of can make their own out of their own hope, willpower,
and
out of
I
fear.
I
Like you don't need the central battery. You can cut out the middleman.
and since War Journal came out like literally today,
Yeah.
um I've already read it, but it ties into a little bit of that, like a little bit more,
Right.
and Phil and the I almost want to not talk about this so I can talk about War Journal because that was so good last night, dude. It was
Oh
great.
yeah,
It was
dude, I
awesome.
can't wait. I
And
love
I
Kennedy Johnson, dude. So I'll.
and when you read it, you'll know why because it's like a direct War World. Like it feels like a sequel to War World, and it's pretty cool, man.
That's dope.
It's
I
tight.
love
I was like, oh, sweet. But yeah, like it's interesting that Adams is tackling this because it's like it's gonna kind of rewrite a lot of the rules, I think, for Green Lantern. You know, especially if each lantern's kind of being able to like be their own battery, I guess.
right.
So I don't know. It's cool. I like this idea. Even more so than just people messing with the batteries. I think it's like pretty ballsy to even just say, hey, like we're gonna blow them up,
Right.
you know? Because the green one is the green one still around or is that one like gone too?
I'm not quite sure. I think it's gone. No, because there are still Green Lanterns around. I think
Okay.
it's just on the. I think it's on like the where the United Planets basically are at. I think
Okay.
that's where it's
Right,
at.
right, right. And but yeah. And then there's like all the stuff happening on like New Corrigan. Is it Corrigan or Corrigar?
Korgar.
Wherever Sinestro's from. Like
Yeah,
so like there's
Korrigal.
stuff like there's it's just happening everywhere. Like pretty I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing the other like major like core planets, you know. I don't
Yeah,
know. It this might be something that he's gonna be like every few issues we'll get like another like, hey, here's the Red Lantern battery being bombed out, and then here's the Indigo tribe, and here's all
right.
these. I don't know. It's cool.
I like it.
Yeah, him and Carol have a quick conversation. He basically tells her like, I there's stuff I gotta do and it's not here. Like I have to leave again. And then but he like tells her like if you want me to stay, I'll stay. You know?
Right.
Like any reason I should stay. And then she basically just says like I'll go. I have to go. You
Yeah.
know, I can't be
Well,
here
they've been
anymore.
playing this whole thing for this series.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
cat and mouse
Like
thing. She's seeing somebody else. Hal wants her, and it's
yeah, and like sh- here's what's funny to me is like I feel like we know Adams enough as a writer now. Be like she's gonna come back, but probably as like a Star Sapphire.
yeah,
Like she probably has a ring in her back pocket still somewhere, you know?
yeah,
So it would be cool. I imagine this could lead to another like war level like arc or event in this book.
yeah,
And yeah, it could be cool to see her like suit up again.
yeah. I mean, after Adam's 1 minute war, I'm down for him doing any kind of like contained event.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that would be my preference is if you can just stick to like do and hell man, it would be cool because he could have like Superman show up, like or I don't want to like get ahead of myself, but like I could imagine like a pretty big like United Planets like event like I mean, and we talked about this like before.
Yeah,
Uh, I and back then I think I just wanted it to be PKJ, but I would
right.
be down if they like tag teamed it, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
Like if they did like a tag team on the event and it was like just a solid, 6, 8 issues, whatever they make it,
right.
and then there's
It does seem
alternating.
like they're communicating. It does
Yeah,
seem like they're
definitely. So
they're
it would be cool to see that. I don't know. I think this stuff is way more interesting on like a DC universe scale than anything that they're doing with Amanda Waller. You
I
know,
yeah.
like and that might stem from me just not liking her as a character. But
I
like
mean, they've been doing her to death, dude. Since like Dark Crisis, she's been in this big bad. It's been like two
and
years
like she's
now.
just not interesting to me, like
No,
in any way. So like the fact that they're really like driving home this, hey, let's make all heroes on Earth hated. It's like the universe is like already kind of against them anyway.
right,
Like so like I don't know. Maybe I'm just complaining, but I really think this is probably where they should put their focus because I feel there's a lot of really good storytelling potential here and they're just not utilizing it.
right. Because I
And
would
but
say,
like
the Jeff Johns like Green Lantern, like everything, even the lead up to like Blackest Night, it is like the most epic thing. You could really feel like this is an epic, like the entire universe and all the lanterns
yeah,
and the DC universe. This is affecting everything. And you really
right.
feel like the stakes are so high. Like everybody's coming back to life, everybody who ever died, and you really feel like the scope is there. So I agree. I think that they should because you have Green Lanterns in every sector. You bring them all together to do handle
And
one thing.
and the other thing I think about too is like we know like we don't know for a fact, but we know for a fact that the Justice League is going to come back. You know,
Right.
like we already saw the leak like when Dawn of DC first started, and they pushed that back a little bit to maybe give the Titans a little bit more cushion and kind of like give Taylor a plan. I don't know,
Right.
but if the Justice League is coming back, and fingers crossed, if Philip Kennedy Johnson does write that series, that is the perfect event to bring them back on. Like
Yeah.
here's what I feel like would be the smart thing to do is you let this play out a little bit longer. You let the Titans do whatever they need to do on Earth. You know, like let them just finish out like whatever he has planned, if it's, whether it's another year or whatever. Let him hash it out.
Right.
But give this time to breathe, and then set the stage for that big event with United Planet stuff. Make that the event,
Right.
maybe of next year. 2025. That can be the event of 2025, and then you bring the Justice League back in that event, but don't start the main Justice League title until after that event is over.
Right.
Because then it's a big deal when they return in the event. It's not just, hey, we have a new number one. Like, and you could easily say, like, hey, issue number, you don't even have to show up in issue number one. You can make it like, 3 months, 3 issues into the event. That
Right.
way you still have a little bit of cushion for when they return, and you have a little bit of time with solicitations. So, like, if you're doing 6 issues, and by the time issue 3 comes out, you're not going to know that the Justice League is getting a new title until that next month anyway. So
Right.
that gives them a little bit of time to like have them show up in the book. Hey, they're back. A couple weeks later, do the big announcement, and then we get the full solicitation within like a week or two after that.
Right. And I feel like Philip Kennedy Johnson needs to touch on homeboy that was in War World that left. That dude that
Yeah,
with
yeah,
that like
the
sacrificed the
Theologian guy.
Theologians. I forgot his name, but the dude that
Yeah,
sacrificed like the Theologians for Superman to come.
right. Like I don't know. There like, and I feel like last time we talked about Green Lantern, or even anything War World related, like this is what my mind always comes back to. This should be an event. By the end of this, it should be an event book. And I hate events.
Right.
Like we're so oversaturated with events right now. It's like it's annoying.
Right.
But this would be an event that I would read if it was, done right.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't like to complain, but it's like right in their faces, man.
Yeah. And Jeremy
DC
Adams hasn't
is
done anything like he's done no wrong. So it's like just
right, right.
give it to him.
Like give him his shot. Philip Kennedy Johnson has done epic work since he started at DC.
Yeah.
Like they're both at the top of their game, man. Like let them steer the ship for a second if they want to.
Yeah.
Like, or just throw them a bone, let them do the big event, let them get their name up, and then call it
Yeah.
there. I don't know.
I love it.
Um,
I can't I hope to see that, and I'm hoping that that blacked out thing for Free Comic Book Day is a Justice League or
yeah,
something like that. But
I don't know. We'll see what happens. It'll probably be the next last thing on this. I could see them doing the big Waller event like closer to the end of the year, and that would set the stage for whatever is after that, if it's the United Planets stuff.
right.
But I don't know. We'll see. Um, yeah. So Hal and Razor take off, and they catch up with Madame Xanadu
Good to see her again.
every time, bro.
Yeah.
She's like a delight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah. Like when she shows up in JSA, I was like, hey,
Yeah.
I know you.
Yeah. Awesome for Jeremy Adams to just bring her in. I was like, hey, that's cool.
I like Madame Xanadu. She's cool.
Yeah.
So like I think he's pretty much asking like what's the deal with the emotional spectrum, right? Like they're trying to figure out what the yeah. And then
Yeah.
so she reveals that Sinestro came to see her, which I mean, it's not really that like, oh, I can't believe he would do that. Like obviously he's gonna search out every possible way to either get home or figure out what's going on,
Right.
Because he at the end of the day, like he's still Sinestro, he's not like he's just some pushover. Like he's gonna get home, he's gonna figure it out. Like he's got his will, I would say, is not necessarily comparable to Hal's, but like he's a pretty motivated and determined character when he needs to be, you
Yeah.
know. And then Madame Xanadu's place gets bombed. and it's a bird, a rhino, and a guy with no face.
Right. They're basically the United Planets, like
Yeah.
Green Lanterns. Yeah.
I like their costumes.
Yeah, me too.
I think their costumes are cool, but it definitely gives off this like the United Planets are really trying to push this like we're better than you.
Yeah, we're like the pretentious monks, like type of,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah, like we're the saviors of the universe. Like I'm
Yeah,
like, dude, like so they're really pushing this like narrative of they're doing good, you know.
right.
But we already know that they're corrupt. Like I can't wait for everybody to find out.
Yeah.
That's like the one thing I'm waiting for is like the big reveal to like all of like the cosmic side of DC that's like involved with the United Planets. Like, hey, they're evil
Right.
and they're a bunch of pansies because the Sphealosian guys already been like blackmailing them and threatening them.
Right.
So
Um,
because they had a hand in like funding Warworld or something too, right?
yeah.
Because they were working with Mongol.
Yep.
That's right, dude. It's just like capitalism on Earth.
They were basically, it was like a prison industrial complex type of
Yeah,
deal.
that's
You
what I'm
know,
saying, man.
they
It's
were
like
just sending
capitalism.
people to War World. And it's like,
Hey, it
dude.
sounds a lot like our planet.
Yeah. I mean,
You
United
know,
Planet,
hey,
United States, we got that, and it's pretty funny. It's pretty funny
take
to
that
see.
how you will,
Yeah.
everybody.
Hmm.
But yeah, so it's like Razor and Hal versus these three like chump lanterns, and Xanadu's there, but she's not really doing a whole lot. Um, the fight isn't necessarily like the most epic thing, but it's not about like the action sequence that makes this fight so interesting. It's that Hal and this bird Green Lantern are fighting, and then all of a sudden he changes yellow into yellow.
Right.
And while Razor is fighting this guy with no face, he turns into Blue Lantern.
Right.
So,
They're like immediately tapping into the emotional,
yeah.
you know, and that
Uh
they might have, all the power batteries at the United Planets, so that's how they're able to.
right. So I this begs the question of what like one why are they able to do this, you know?
Right.
Because do you, and do you think it's because of them bombing the central power batteries that's obviously probably a reason why the spectrum is in flux.
Right.
So do you think that it's just the powers like reaching out and basically it's like it's almost become like an open well of energy to like people to tap into
Right.
rather than it just being contained? Because it I don't want to compare them to like the Infinity Stones because they're not.
No.
But like and the stones don't work and I wasn't gonna say that the stones that work this way either, but like I could almost see it like it being a house for that energy, and now that that house has come apart, it's just
Right.
everywhere.
Well,
I don't
now
know.
I just kind of look at it now. It's like flipped. Instead of the ring choosing, now people are choosing the ring and the
So it
power.
almost feels like that this is like kind of like the force now.
Yeah. Well,
Like,
like something's up with it to the point where these people at the United Planets and other people, if they're able to tap into it, they can get into it. It's not the way of how it used to be where the ring goes out and finds somebody fit.
yeah,
Now it's at a point where if you could tap into it, by all means,
right.
it's like
And that's
Sinestro.
what I mean by it, like kind of being like the force to where it's like because like 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 new Star Wars canon is that like every like the force everybody can wield it, you know?
Right.
Kind of like so technically anybody could wield any of the lantern powers if they like focus that emotion strong enough.
Right. Or
Which
Dragon Ball. Humans can do Kamehamehas if they train and
yeah, like I think that's cool. I think that's cool because it provides a lot of storytelling potential. And
yeah.
imagine something like a Green Lantern Spirit Bomb.
Yeah.
That would be tight, man.
Yeah.
Like this is like our last shot in the galaxy for Hal. You know, he's
Right.
saving Earth, and then everybody lends him their willpower.
It just
Oh,
kind of makes me wonder also, like, what does this mean for a White Lantern? Does that mean that that's
mm.
completely just because everything is screwed up, or can the White Lantern bring it all back? You know what I mean? To one.
Which right, which could be a point they touch on later. You know,
Yeah. I mean, we're getting back like,
and
back to
and
the
and
stories
what
of Kyle. They
That
are.
being said, what does that mean for the like the Black Lantern? You know what I mean? Like because it's not, accessible by normal means like emotional means, but it is on the spectrum.
But also, because remember, the last time we saw Necron was in Dark Crisis, where he was
Yeah,
taken
he was just
over with.
reborn
Well, he was like taken over by the Great
by the Great
Darkness, with like
Darkness, right?
Darkseid and Doomsday, and so that's the last time we've seen Necron. So it
But
kind of makes
he's and
sense.
he's probably still gone, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
like, what is I don't know. That's just like questions I have. Like, what is it like? You bringing up the White Lanterns made me think of like,
But I mean that brings up a good point too. Like, what's up with the avatars? What's Ion doing? What's Parallax? Like, if everything's
yeah,
messed up,
yeah,
where are
good
they
point.
at, and what does that mean for them? You know?
Yeah, that's a good point. I
Yeah.
mean, and that kind of leads into where the issue like is over, at the end because they tell like Hal is told to go to the green. And I don't necessarily think it's like the green as in like the Swamp Thing green.
Right. Right.
What if this is Ion?
It could be.
And maybe this is kind of the reason why he's been unable to leave is because Ion is here and that's the one that's lending him the power.
Could be.
I don't know. Like I said, I haven't read a lot of John's Green Lantern, but I know of those like concepts.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that's interesting. That would be really cool. Um, yeah, I don't know, man. I like the idea of like the lanterns being able, like people being able to harness that power, but I also think it's kind of like you got to toe the line
Yeah.
because it can be easily become like everybody gets powers now.
I would be worried if it wasn't Jeremy Adams.
Right,
You
right,
know?
and yeah, he's already proven that he can handle like a pretty sizable cast, and with a lot of people having similar powers in the Flash and Green Lantern, he's already shown that he can like have unique and creative uses of their powers without them all feeling the same, you know?
Right. Right. But it's it's really interesting because I do hope I do hope we get more of the connectedness, and I really hope we get Hal and John kind of coming together and meeting up, at some point and to figure out what's going on here. Because we
Yeah.
also have to deal with, they haven't talked about it in this book yet, but we have to deal with the Radiant.
Well, they answer that. That's kind of what I was saying earlier. They answer what the Radiant Dead is
Okay.
in this issue.
Okay. Do you think that could be what's messing up the emotional spectrum with everything?
No,
Okay.
it's not okay. It's more related to Warworld than it is to Green Lantern,
Gotcha. Okay.
but it does give John an idea on a new way to use the Green Lantern power.
Gotcha.
So, and it's badass, dude.
Yeah.
It's hella cool.
I love that John's getting some love here,
Yeah,
and Bill Kennedy Johnson's doing just a stellar job,
yeah. It was kick ass, dude. It was a great issue
I'm stoked, man. Especially because, I mean, did you read the backup for this?
for this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did the Rainer stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
'Cause
I
it
read
makes
it.
me wonder if now they're kind of setting up Rayner to come back as a.
And honestly, I don't doubt it. You know,
Right.
Adams. I think Adams likes that era of characters just in general. You know,
Right.
so I wouldn't be surprised if Kyle's gonna show up and get some big time again.
Well, it
Um,
says Kyle and Joe are to the truth
yeah.
behind looking for
So
the
like,
truth behind the United Planets.
yes,
So
like this little, and this is like just a quick little like almost like an introspective look on where Kyle's at and his place in the Green Lantern Corps, because he's just kind of like, I used to be the guy. Like Hal was gone, I was the guy, I was the only guy around, and then everybody started showing up again. Hal came back from the dead, all these new people started showing up, and I was less special.
right.
And then he's having coffee with his ex. I'm pretty sure it's his ex, right?
Yeah.
Um, and is this is the one that got fridged or no?
I believe that it is actually.
Alex, I don't remember,
I
but
believe that
either
it
way,
is.
okay, either way, he's sad, he's kind of alone, and then he gets somebody off panel talks to him, and it's Joe from Far Sector, the Green Lantern,
Yes.
um, Sojourner. But then she says like, hey, like there's something going on with the like lanterns, and things are kind of a little bit crazy, so let's go check it out. And then they they leave us with a little tease of like Joe, yeah, like you said, Kyle and Joe are on the truth behind the United Planets, and next month it's Jessica Cruz's turn.
Cool. They're
I,
bringing all
I
of
yeah,
them.
yeah, I like that because we showed in the last issue that they're all kind of spread out because it was just like not even Kilowog. It was just John and Hal that chose to go back.
Right.
And everybody else decided to just they have nothing left on Earth, so they just decided to keep doing their thing in space. Um, I am really interested to see obviously all of like the main named lanterns like from Earth that we know, like Simon, Jessica, Kyle, we already saw Kyle and Joe, like Guy and whoever else they might throw in the mix. But like the veteran lanterns prior to the United Planets takeover, I am interested to see like how that plays out, like what side they're gonna choose.
Right.
Because I'm sure that there are some lanterns in the core that were in there prior that are going to be like, hey, these guys aren't that bad. Like we're doing something good, Like I have a feeling some of them will fall into the propaganda, and it's going to cause like a pretty good divide
Right.
between in the core.
I could
Um,
totally see Guy being like, "Hey, they're
yeah,
actually doing something good here." And
yeah, and I think it would be also really cool because it would be cool to see a lot of them like a lot of the main lanterns kind of tap into this Spectrum and Flux and kind of swap powers. Like
yeah,
it would be cool to see Guy obviously stay green, but then like situation calls for it, he just turns red.
yeah. I mean, if
Like and
Sinestro
it
can do it,
and it would be so cool, man, to kind of get this on like a bigger scale. Like if it gets that far, if the story goes that far and we actually get like a good size like war, um, why not throw in some of the super family characters too? Like Kara, you could throw her in. She's been a Red Lantern. Like it would
yeah,
be cool to see Adams write the super family, with Johnson.
yeah.
And it would, I don't know, that stuff that like my brain just immediately jumps to like
Well, we
the
haven't had
potential.
that
Yeah.
since Jeff Johns. We haven't had
Like
anything like that.
I just like the potential of the story, and I think it could go a long way if they just let him cook, man.
Yeah, yeah,
They just have to stay out of the kitchen while these two are doing their thing.
right. I mean, between 1 minute more and everything that Philip Kennedy Johnson has done, I think DC would be dumb to not let them. You know,
Yeah.
because Jeremy Adams has proved himself. That Flash run is probably the best Flash run I've read since Jeff Johns.
Mhm.
You
I
know,
mean, yeah, it's like it's a top three, man.
yeah,
It's
and
Wade, Johns, and Adams now for me. Like that's just how it is.
100%. And that's why I'm saying like between him and Phil, I feel like they have all their chips in a basket when it comes to Philip Kennedy Johnson at this point. Like Warworld throughout like is praised. I've never seen anybody like really praise Warworld like the way it's been, like the way like a
Yeah.
Superman story has been praised. We don't know a modern Superman story that's gotten that much.
Yeah.
So for Phil Kennedy Johnson to do that and to even make non-Superman fans a fan of his Superman, yeah. I think
Not
I
not that
think
not, not
DC
that I
would be
hated Superman prior to this, but like you know what I mean? Like it really like it kicked off an entire year's worth of reading. Like
yeah,
almost really. Like I read Space Age and I really enjoyed that. And then you were like, hey, check out World War Saga. And then at that point, I was all in on Philip Kennedy Johnson. I was like, okay, like whatever Superman stuff he's got, I'll read it.
yeah,
I read Action all of last year. Hell, man, I was reading Williamson's Superman. Like I'm reading Last Days of Lex Luthor. Like there's a lot of books. I've read the big ones. Like same with Batman. Like
right.
I've read All Star. I read like for all seasons, but like, I've never read Birthright. I've never read like mainline Superman stuff. So like John Burns' Man of Steel, I've never read it.
Oh yeah.
You know, I've read Death of Superman, but like
Right.
it's
Yeah.
Death of Superman.
Yeah.
Like
It was a mess.
and that's something I would be interested in going back and reading too. Like at some point is maybe like around that same era, like that I would be interested in Batman. I feel like Superman would be good too.
Yeah.
Like
I,
80s
I love
Superman. I don't know, man.
I love Superman, but it's kind of like at a point where like Peter Tomasi's run was great, but nothing I feel like reached the heights of Phil Kennedy Johnson.
I read New 52 Superman. That's whatever. But
Yeah, well, that was Jurgens, right? I think he did.
I thought that was that not John's in the beginning?
No, Jeff Johns.
Did
No,
he not do?
no, Grant Morrison did the Action Comics. And I want to say it was it George Perez?
I
I
don't
want to say it was
remember.
George Perez. Because I know George Perez was pissed because Action Comics took place 5 years before his Superman, and editorial
Yeah.
didn't know what the hell was going on and couldn't tell him what Superman has done 5 years ago.
Hold on. It might have been George Perez. I don't know why I thought Johns wrote that.
No, Johns wrote a lot
No,
though.
you're right. You're right. It is Perez.
Yeah, and he ended up leaving because basically they were like, "Yeah, you can't contradict
And
what Grant Morrison's doing," and he was like, "What's Grant Morrison doing?" They were like, "We don't know." So he was like, "What the?"
that's right. We talked about this. I
Yeah,
don't know.
and so
I don't
he
know
jumped
why I
off the
thought.
book, and of
No,
course they
Johns
just
was
had
writing like
Angel.
Aquaman. He was writing Justice League. That's what he was writing.
He wrote Justice League. He did the first, I want to
And
say, 3 arcs of Aquaman,
Aquaman.
and then
Yeah.
he finished out his Green Lantern run, the New 52.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, he did. Because that was the one of the series that just kind of act like it just kind of rolled, like it didn't really act like the New 52
Yeah,
had.
yeah.
It just kind of he just kept going.
Right.
Green Lantern run,
Right.
similar to Scott
Yeah, that's
Snyder.
right.
Scott Snyder was just like, nope, this takes place after Grant Morrison. Nope,
Yeah.
So
Which it's
those worked.
I wonder why.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
wonder why they work because it wasn't just 100% reboot.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I mean they tried to like it says in Scott Snyder's run that like, oh, he's been Batman for 5 years, yet he has Damian
Yeah,
and Dick is Night. I think he had to just put that in there, but I think like he was just saying like
right.
I'm not gonna act like that. Like that's just there for editors.
I feel like it was one of those things where he was like, yeah, like it's a new universe, but this happened still. Like,
Yeah,
you know, like I guess I'm still coming off the back of this, so it still technically happened in my book.
exactly.
Man, I wish every writer did that for New 52.
I
You
know, I know.
know what I
But I
mean?
mean,
Because I feel like I always wonder about the New 52 since we have like 5 minutes, I
yeah,
always wonder about the New 52 because it's like a weird it's just this weird like mashup of things that work and things that don't work. And then when you put them together, some of it still kind of works, but then everything else is just ass.
yeah,
Like I feel like if you had every single writer kind of like outline what has already happened in the DC universe for these characters and kind of let people that like let maybe that editorial let them kind of cherry pick through things that they like you want to keep and kind of like decide a timeline.
right,
You can retcon stuff out that you don't like or that's confusing, which I think that's kind of what they're trying to do now, like post Infinite Frontier and now that we're in Dawn of DC.
yeah,
It's weird because I feel like that they're not really putting like a genuine effort behind it.
right,
Because you really could have kept a lot of the same history and cut out the stuff people didn't like or whatever, and
right,
just put them back in this almost the same exact spot in this new universe and just let them keep going.
right.
But instead, you like halt all progress, start from square one, and half of it doesn't make sense, and half of the stories are just weird. Like I don't know. It's
It
and
was
because I don't
Manhattan,
want to.
dude. Dr. Manhattan magic.
I mean, yeah. I mean, yes. Now it's
Yeah,
Manhattan, but like again, like it just adds a more. It just makes it more confusing. You
yeah.
know?
Because it's like, hey, is Wonder Woman made of clay, or is she a demigod that's the basically daughter of Zeus? Like, what is she?
Yeah.
We don't know which origin is really hers.
Well, I mean, it's clearly established now that she was Clay,
Right, right. But New
but
52,
like,
she
which
wasn't. She was,
yeah, yeah, exactly. So like,
which don't get me wrong, I
I
actually
don't know.
like that run. I don't really like Brian Azzarello that much, but I actually like that Wonder
Yeah, and
Woman.
it was okay. Like
She was
I
basically
read
just
I read a little
Kratos.
bit of that.
She was DC Kratos, basically.
Hey, and I like that.
Yeah, me too. It was
I mean,
awesome.
I like the current Wonder Woman series by Tom King, but
Yeah.
like I like my Wonder Woman to kick some ass, dude.
Yeah, she's a demigod. She should be fighting with her
Yeah, she's cool, man.
Greek god counterparts.
She's cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. New 52 has always stuck out as like a sore thumb. You know,
Yeah,
I
but
think for
there
anybody,
is a
it's
lot of good
fun.
stuff there. There is a
Yeah,
lot.
there's some cool stuff. Like I think new like I hate Barry. I'll say it. I don't really
Yeah.
care for him that much. But I like New 52 the Flat. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's not awful. There are some arcs that are not that great,
Right.
but like the Future Flash arc is really not that good. But the Future Flash suit is cool. You
Yeah.
know? I like Barry fighting himself. That's cool.
Yeah.
But like I don't know. There are cool concepts in that run, but they just don't really always land that well.
Right.
And then you have like Teen Titans New 52. And that's
Yeah.
just
Awful.
oh
Yeah. Absolutely
yikes.
awful. But I mean, like,
Um
look what they did to Lobo. Lobo was like this skinny, androgynous
yeah.
dude, like, and it was really weird. It was really
There's
jarring.
just a bunch of weird stuff that they like they kind of like threw stuff at the wall and expected it to all to stick. I
Yeah.
mean, and that's kind of what we got like the current iteration of the Suicide Squad too, right?
Right. That
I mean,
was from the that was
I have the first trade
so do I, the
for
kicked in
New
the teeth
52
one.
Suicide Squad.
Yeah, the kicked
Yeah,
in the teeth one. Yeah, I have that too.
I have that. I have that trade. I like was like because it's like I was pulling stuff down the other day and I saw it and I was like, I'm never gonna read this.
Yeah, I haven't read it.
I thumbed through it and I like read a couple pages. I'm like, this is awful.
Yeah, it's really
I'm
not.
like who enjoyed this, man? Like,
Yeah, it really wasn't that good. I think
uh,
I got it like at a thrift place for like
well,
5.
like, and then there's like what, like issue 3 or 4. There's like that weird sex scene between or almost between Harley and Deadshot.
Yeah, and she puts like the
I'm like,
Joker's like cut off face on Deadshot, and it's like, whoa.
yeah, I'm like, oh, this is a little weird. I was like, ah, I'm okay.
Yeah.
But all right, guys, thanks for tuning in again. We'll see you next time.
All
Peace
right.
out.
Later on, guys.